Got this.
Let's hope it's showtime. I want to make sure it's. Yes, there's the tribe. I see them already. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back. As you can see, this isn't a tarot reading. This is part 2 of the Untold story of Frankincense, straight from the source. As you can see, a couple of familiar faces. There's Mama Cup, which is my mom, Laura, and Dr. Anjanette DeCarlo. Again, for those of you that didn't see, we did a Stepping into Mission episode. She kicked off that series, as well as the first episode of the Untold story of Frankincense, talking about the history, a bit about the biology, chemistry, and all of that good stuff. So today, we are really going to focus on the mission, and she's going to facilitate this panel here. But I did want to just kind of let you guys know that I'm really trying to offer you guys content that, you know, we're all on a spiritual ascension journey, and this spiritual ascension journey leads to something, and it leads to mission. And I hope that this content inspires you guys to step into mission. And yeah, I just wanted to kind of just give you context as to why I'm doing this content, and will continue to do this content. And I hope it inspires you. And we are doing it live so that it can be interactive. So feel free to ask questions and all that good stuff. But I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Anjanette. Thank you again for coming back. We didn't scare you away.
No, not at all. I love the Clean Up tribe, and I'm really happy to be here with all of you today. Let me just give a little overview of what we're doing. So you guys saw the last 2 interviews that we did about frankincense, and we didn't really get too much into the problems in frankincense and the solutions, and we are today. And the reason why we want to do that is because we want to share with the tribe transparency of what the issues are in the field, so that you can all understand what this team right here is doing to address those problems and to do mission-driven work. We talked about charity versus socially responsible business, and that being a driver of humanitarian efforts that are tied to business, equal partnerships across Africa and Americans and Canadians to be equally empowered. And really, you're sitting with a group right now, you're looking at a group of people who are equally empowered partners in a shared vision to have sustainable and ethical frankincense brought to the world, and especially to the smudging community. So just keep that in the back of your mind as you're listening to them today, that this is an approach to humanitarian or mission-driven work by doing just socially responsible business. So let me just introduce everybody a little bit, who they are. And I'm going to start with Abdurazak Muhammad. He's also known as Jamal, which makes it easier for us Westerners. So thanks, Jamal, for giving a great nickname to yourself like that. He's the founder. He's also a frankincense landowner, which means his family plants trees. And he's the director of Dayaha Frankincense Export Company. It's a social enterprise created by Jamal to provide a fair market access to the harvesters in Dayaha, Somaliland, where Jamal was born. Next to Jamal, we have Stephen Johnson, and Stephen Johnson is a frankincense and myrrh supplier. He's a researcher and a consultant. He has done extensive field work in West Africa and East Africa and the Arabian Peninsula, and has published over a dozen papers on frankincense, and we've published many of those together. So Stephen and I have worked as a team for many years. He's founder now of Fair Source Botanicals, which focuses on building socially, economically, and regenerative supply chains. Next is Laura, who
Mama Cup.
Mama Cup. Many of you know her as Mama Cup. She is Destiny's mom. What you might not know about her is that she has 25 years of corporate experience, with 20 plus of those years leading commercial teams and national brand strategy in health and beauty. So it's pretty amazing to have Mama Cup here. You all know Destiny. She's a gifted tarot card reader, blew my mind with my tarot card reading, gave me some messages I really needed to hear. But she's now branching out. She's engaging in mission-driven work to bring sustainable and ethical smudging products to all of you. And this will be a first. There's no other company or entity that we know of that is doing this kind of work to bring sustainable and ethical smudging products, which are so important to this community. And that is the team. Y'all know me already.
Angel gang, gang.
Gang, gang, Angel gang, gang. So what we're going to do is Jamal's first time with all of us. So, let's show him a lot of love because he's here with us today live. I'm going to try to catch your questions or comments in the chat to be able during Q&A to read back to these guys. But if you want to hold that until we get to Q&A, that might be a little easier for me. So forgive me if I miss a question. All right, so we're going to kick this off, Jamal, and give you the floor, you and Stephen, 10 minutes each or 20 minutes combined before we hear from Laura, and then Destiny will wrap it up. So Jamal, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I just want to introduce myself, obviously. And my name is Abdul Isaac Mohammed, and I was born in Somaliland. And I left Somaliland when I was about 4 or 5 because of the war. So we moved to Norway, me and my family, lived there for 16, 17 years, then moved to UK, lived here now for about 10 years or 15 years now, and got family here, married here, kids, and then I lived there happily and working, and then one day I got a call from my dad saying, "Oh, we got frankincenses back home." I didn't know what it was. I just heard about it from school in RE. In school, that frankincense is the gold and from the church and stuff like that. So I found out. I thought, okay, let me see. I looked at Google there, looked through it, and I thought, okay, people actually making money out of this. I spoke to my dad about it, and I told him it's something I want to get involved into. So I spoke to one of my partners, Paul Bell, and I told him my story. I said, this is what's happening back home. I want to visit. So about a couple of months after I visited Somaliland, this is my second time. First time I visited was 2007. I was a little bit younger, but so I moved. So I visited again anyway in 2019. So I went to Ergabo, Dayaha, where my family lives, and the farms, and where it all starts from. So I met my uncles, aunties, grandmoms, people that family members that I haven't met for years, so I've never seen in my life. So it was good time to see me, the family. They showed me the trees, they showed me where the farm is, what they do, and how they do it. And I found it very hard to believe this is where everything starts from. And I looked at the people, how they live and the life they live in. And I found it very hard that actually people are making millions out of this, and people are living poverty life, no water, no schools, no nursery, not even entertainment for the kids. So, and it's lots of kids that lives there, women, all they do is just sit around and wait for the frankincenses, and that's all they know. So I found it hard, and asked them, who do you sell this to? They we sell this to middlemen that works, and we work the whole year and give all this to the middlemen for cheap prices, and then they sell it on to big companies or other middlemen, and they sell it for much more money. So I spoke to my dad and Paul Bell, and I said, I want to do something about this. I want to change it. I want to help the people, give them fair price, and help them out. You know what I mean? So it took 3 years to get where I am right now, to do the research. I met Stephen. Me and Paul got contact with Stephen about 2 and a half years ago, and we started from there. And we took steps. It was small steps at first, but I believe we are in the right place right now to help the people, and to my plan and his plan actually work. It's similar. So we do want to help. We want to at least get water because they walk about 7 miles to get water. and that's the nearest water supply they have. And mostly the people that do this is the women. So they have to carry balls on their back or their head and carry 7 miles to carry in the back. And the men is the ones that go and climb the trees. And I found out while I was on the trip in 2019 that I have lost loads of uncles, cousins. Just recently in 2019, one of my cousins passed away. I never met in my life. So it was very sad. And I do feel sorry for the people, and I do want to change that. And hopefully me and Stephen, and hopefully with you lot and everyone else, we can help these people and get what they need. And because they need schools, because the kids are not educated. So obviously they're not going to be educated to take care of the trees. So because people are over harvesting, because they're hungry, they haven't got money. So, and people are coming to them, I was telling them, oh, I want this much amount of tons of frankincense. So the people are over harvesting the trees, and these people are not educated to know maybe that they're actually hurting the trees or they're damaging the trees. So obviously we want to get educated people and educated younger people that's obviously going to take over for the older lot in a few years' time. So that's my story, first of all. Keeping it short and sweet.
Yeah.
Even.
Well, Jamal, let me just read you a couple comments.
Okay.
Getting a lot of wows.
Okay.
Yes, King. Yes, King.
Okay.
Thank you. What a beautiful name you have. God bless you. You must do better. So thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for your mission work. Yeah.
And I have some pictures as well. If I can just share my screen real fast and pull them up, I think it helps illustrate. Yeah.
Great. Truth Be Told is asking how we can help. We're getting there. We're going to tell you how you can help. And one of the ways that you're going to see after all these presentations is that you can buy frankincense through Destiny and Laura, because these two guys right here are the ones supplying that frankincense and bringing it from all over the world to you. And when you see what their mission, what their socially responsible format is for their company, I think you'll be pretty compelled. Steve, are you able to share your screen?
Yeah, can you see it?
I cannot.
Not yet.
Well, according to StreamYard.
Not like Zoom.
Huh. I mean,
that's okay. Can our viewers see Stephen's slides?
Can you guys see any slides? Can you guys see any images, or you just see us?
We'll give someone a second to answer. Well, we're getting inspiring. And Luna is asking me some technical questions. We'll definitely talk. Oh no, they
don't see slides.
They can't. I mean, it says it's sharing it, but
well, that's all right, Stephen. You can explain it. You got this.
Yeah, fair enough. Sorry, I'm just trying it one more time because I think the pictures make such an impact. So I'm hoping that it'll come up. No.
No.
Oh yeah, wait. Add to screen.
Yeah.
Hey,
can you see it?
Yeah.
All right.
Claudia. Thanks, Claudia, for that suggestion. We got it. Yeah.
And as you can see, this is the village. That's my family is from. My uncles, my aunties, grandmoms, and granddad all live there. And this is all they have. As you can see, can't see no water around, no nurseries, the kids, no places for the kids to play. It's no hospital, anything. The closest hospital to them is Ergavo. That's about 40 minutes drive from where they are. That 40 minutes is mainly that kind of road. And this is where the trees are.
And that's really important as well, because you can see it's so that there's a lot of areas here that are very steep, and that's where a lot of the frankincense grows. Harvesters often, will fall or trip and be injured in these very remote areas because they don't have any safety equipment. And like Jamal said, it's a a very long distance to get to any kind of significant medical attention.
It's incredibly dangerous to harvest frankincense, especially in this area.
Yeah.
This is a picture of me and my family. As you can see, it's my uncle's. My uncle is my dad's brother, is the one that's on my right with a blue shirt, and then is his cousins and some of my cousins as well. The low one there is my little cousin, and some uncles.
And yeah, for a good chunk of the harvesting season, they spend up in the farms, right, on in these like encampment areas.
This is where they're camping right now, and they stay there for about 3 months sometimes in this kind of place, and no heat and no nothing to sleep on, so they're sleeping on the floor. No water close to them, so they have to travel to get water every day, food. So I stayed there for one night and I couldn't handle it. So
pretty rough.
For them to stay there for weeks and months, it's very hard.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can change that.
Yeah. And just to show you, this is the raw frankincense, like when it's immediately come off the tree and it's being dried in one of these caves here, up on the farms. So yeah, just going kind of off of that, we just wanted to share this, which is kind of our vision of how we're going to make a positive impact as a business. And this looks like it looks a little complicated, but it's actually like the concept is very simple, and it's just what Jamal was saying about how the people there have historically been stuck in a position where they're just having to sell their frankincense to middlemen for very low prices. There aren't many other economic activities, and it's their, one of the only livelihoods available. So obviously, if when we talk about overharvesting, I think we can't just talk about the trees. We have to talk about what's going on with the people. And when there is overharvesting, it's not necessarily because the people there don't know better, but you can't expect people to take a long-term sustainability based view and practice if they're so backed into a corner that they're just having to get as much resin as they can today to take care of their needs and their family's needs today. So as a business, sort of our view is that our responsibility is to support the harvesters and the people who are directly managing the trees, as well as their communities, which in turn supports them. So in terms of some of the things that we've talked about doing for to get additional sources of income and additional options and livelihood options to increase the stability of the people there, is things like honey, because that's something that is actually has a very positive impact on frankincense trees. Bees love frankincense trees, flowers, and resin. They actually collect frankincense resin and use it to protect their hives. They use it as natural medicine. So they're doing the exact same thing that we are. And then, other livelihood options, there are things like, dates and small scale agriculture that could provide more income and more year round stability. And then the other piece of that, of course, is, as we're putting in these management inputs, as we're saying, okay, we're doing X, Y, and Z to support harvesters and support their communities, then the harvesters are, of course, harvesting the trees and managing those trees, and we need to be able to see what that impact is as well. We need to know, what's the intensity of the harvest? Is the amount of resin we're asking for, is that sustainable, or is there any issue? And the programs that we're doing, are they having the effect that we want them to have? Are they actually supporting, or are they actually translating into a healthy, stable situation for both the trees and for the harvesters? So one of the other things that we're doing is focusing on getting very fine scale monitoring for the trees in Diaha. All of these pictures are trees in the wadis around Diaha. So we've at this point photographed hundreds of trees, and we'll continue to do that and continue to take pictures of the same trees so that we can see as time goes on that, okay, you know, when there's regeneration, that there's a little seedling, it is successfully transitioning to being an adult tree, or that, okay, you know, this is the correct number of harvesting taps. You know, this is going to be a sustainable level of harvesting for these trees, or on the other side, if there is any issue, we can catch it and we can address it. And by doing that, we're aiming to create sort of an adaptive management cycle where, again, we have a management input, or we do something to support the harvesters or to have an impact on the trees, and then we can monitor what that impact is and adjust what we are doing to support the community, to make sure that ultimately we have not just good intentions, but ultimately good impacts. And a big part of that is just you know, being able to be really close to the community and having good communication with them. So yeah, that's sort of the broad overview of how we are approaching sustainability and supporting the community in Diaha with the frankincense there.
Excellent. Thank you, Stephen. Listen, if you don't mind, I'm gonna give a question to Stephen and Jamal now.
Yeah, go ahead.
To Laura. One of the questions, guys, is from Veronica. She's asking, so does there need to be emphasis on other agricultural products to help with the frankincense? That's a very relevant question. You were showing honey and dates and other things. And so can you just elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. Jamal, do you want to do this one, or do you want me to? All right, cool. Yeah, I mean, so the bottom line is that it's not necessarily about honey or dates or any specific thing. The key is that we want to make sure that the community is supported with a diversity of good livelihood options. That was one of the things that actually the community said to us, because obviously, you know, it doesn't work if, you know, we're just looking at it being like, oh, we think you need this, think you need that. Obviously, any development has to come from them, what they want to see. And that was one of the major things that they identified, that they need other livelihood options and other ways to earn income. That's not just based on the frankincense, so that they can reduce the intensity a little bit. So just as we're looking at that, we're trying to think about, well, what are good livelihood options? And one of them is honey, because it has a positive impact on the ecosystem, especially on the frankincense trees. It definitely has a market. It's something that people can do there. That's not going to be, you know, it's not technologically intensive or anything. And then stuff like small scale agriculture for things like dates or other dryland crops are also good option. But that's also, those are two options within a broader set of things that we're looking at.
Great. Jamal, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, because most of my family, because we did ask them what do they really need, and because we don't want them to over harvest the trees, so we asked them, what can we do for you to actually give the trees a rest for maybe a year or two? And they said, we do need another income from anywhere. So I asked them, what kind of income, what will be good for you? And they did say farming and stuff like that. And I did say, we'll be looking into that. All they need is a little teaching, someone to teach them out there and how to do the greenhouses and stuff like that. And they will do it, and they will actually rest the trees. They want to help the trees. But it's just because no one has no money, that's the biggest question.
Yeah. So part of the mission-driven work means asking the communities what they want and not just telling them what to do. And that's a really big change in paradigm, right? Instead of people coming in and telling the communities we're going to do this and do that, which often fails. And so much of aid work around the world has failed because of that approach. this is the new approach that is an equal partnership where people are being asked, what do they want? And how can we work with you to all get to the same place, which is to have healthy communities and healthy trees. That's what we're all going for. And so, Laura, we're getting a lot of questions, right, about we want to help, we want to donate, we want to be a part of the solution. How can we help? And that's what you're going to address about conscious consumerism or conscious capitalism. So I'm going to now turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thanks. The knowledge that was just shared it blows my mind every time I hear this group of experts talking about frankincense and all of the effort and the work that's gone into years, as you've heard, getting to this point. And for me, 6 months ago, I really didn't know very much about frankincense. I knew that Destiny was very passionate and very deeply connected to it. And I knew that she really saw it playing a big part and a big role in her future. And as she, was pulling me in and I started to learn more about frankincense and meet these experts, I became, very fascinated about this ancient trade and the fact that these people had come together to restore it, and the plight of these trees and the plight of the communities that harvest them. And as I learned more about it, I really started to see that it felt like a healing journey. So many diverse people coming together like this in this way with a common and aligned mission, to be honest, is something that I had never really seen or experienced before. And as the universe likes to do, I kind of had a choice I had to make, do I go back into the corporate world, doing what I know how to do, and really driving somebody else's agenda and driving their financial objectives and representing their values? Or do I join forces with my daughter and on a healing journey of our own and build a business where the abundance that we're fortunate enough to have directly impacts the harvesters, the trees, and the communities? And that just kind of blew my mind, its simplicity. And I really, really got excited. And obviously I made this choice. Here I am. And so thank you, universe. And here we are on this journey. And what we're doing is we're building Smudge-a-Lot. And that is going to be a separate entity. And as we've been building, our brand identity and building the platforms, we're going to be moving sort of all things frankincense and myrrh business over to Smudge-a-Lot. I just want to take a pause though and express some gratitude to this tribe that has supported our venture from day one. And we've been jarring, we've been, packing orders. We've been so excited every time that we see an order. And I just want to take a moment and express the gratitude that we feel, because it's really empowered and helped us to invest in really building Smudge-a-Lot into something special and important. And the reason that it's important is, I think, I started to see that economic development, building a bridge between our consumer and right directly to benefit the harvesters and the communities, that was what was going to make a change. And I think donations are great. Please don't misunderstand. And, we're always grateful. But I realized that putting our effort into building a real business that could change the circumstances and could level the playing field, quite honestly, was the way that we were going to have the impact. And so off to work we went, building this business, and you will see more about sort of the launch and the things that we're working on very, very shortly. And one of the big important components of what we're doing is we're kind of challenging this idea of, capitalism and humanitarianism are mutually exclusive terms. And unfortunately that has been the case and still is the case. But I think this tribe is a great example of, people starting, there's a kind of a collective rise in consciousness that's happening. And people and companies are starting to ask the question, where does what I produce or sell or consume come from, and how does it impact the world? And so we want to help kind of bring that to light through this coalition. This isn't one of us. This is a chain link, if you will, and each part is extremely important to make this happen and to bring this to reality. And you guys and your support and your connectedness to what we're doing and your spiritual alignment is essential. I mean, without you, none of this happens. And so you are an integral part of this mission. And one of the exciting things that Smudge a Lot will do is to bring you on the journey with us. It's going to be to connect you directly to the people, the communities, and the trees, and be on the journey with us so that you have a firsthand account and experience of, when you support our business, all of the benefits that is driving right across this chain or this bridge that we're building. And Destiny has incredible creative content ideas that are really next level, that really kind of make this an end-to-end transparent healing journey. And so that is going to be a big part of what we're going to do, and we're very excited about. So that's Smudge a Lot.
Oh, it's so exciting. So we can start to have people dropping questions. We're going to move over to Destiny, but just right before we do, Laura, I just want to say for the audience that the conscientious consumer is such an important part of this overall dynamic. So what you're seeing right here is you have conscientious business people who are going to work on poverty alleviation and environmental sustainability by selling frankincense in a way that empowers the community directly through Smudge a Lot to you. And that is not the normal model for frankincense, or that's not the current model. The dominant model is taking advantage of the communities, not caring about the poverty that they're experiencing, not caring too much about the trees, and sort of turning a blind eye to that whilst making lots of profit from mostly when it's turned into other products. And so this is a very revolutionary way to modernize the frankincense supply chain, which is quite large. I mean, people all over the world love frankincense. There's a lot of passion and a lot of emotion that around frankincense. And so the time is now to do something about it. And the answer is not to stop using frankincense. In fact, the answer is to use it from sources that are empowering the communities and the environment and everybody getting pure and 100% pure frankincense. Let's also, let's shout out that there's a lot of adulterated frankincense on the market, whether it's an incense product or an oil. It is one of the most highly adulterated essential oils on the market. And so the products that Jamal and Stephen are bringing to Laura and Destiny are 100% pure frankincense. So we're covering all three bases: the community, the trees, and the quality of the product. So, and I think it's time.
I want to build on that too, Anjanette, because I think that this isn't like, it's even outside of only frankincense. If you think about a lot of businesses, they don't operate with this mindset that their profit and their success should be connected to economic development at the source. And I think this is hopefully something that we're doing can shine a spotlight on any industry, any business, and maybe inspire some entrepreneurs, to think a little bit differently. And I think that consumer voice that you mentioned is so critical, because without that consumer demand for better and for transparency, it's just us kind of bringing something alone, and it doesn't have that same compelling connection. So
yeah, I'm gonna talk a little bit about how we're gonna bring that transparency in and stuff like that. But I don't know if we want to touch on some questions and stuff. Are there any?
Go ahead, Destiny, because I'm keeping track. Okay,
cool. So I just want to thank everybody for just being here, not just, you guys viewing, but the panel. And, this mission, my ascension journey it's been a long journey, and it's led up to this point of being consciously aware of what matters and everything that these guys are talking about. I mean, you guys knew I love frankincense and had no idea about where it was coming from, how it was harvested. The first supplier that I got, the first couple of suppliers that I got and, launched the business or at least got it to you guys, I had no idea where they were harvesting it from. They couldn't answer any of those questions. I didn't know anything about the quality, anything. And I've learned so much. So I thank you guys. But I really realized through my conscious awareness and my ascension journey that I'm not very consciously aware of where a lot of things that I use come from. So consumer consciousness has been something I really care about, especially with regards to building a business. And I also believe that transparency is really important. So we're here talking to you guys about everything we want to do in these villages and how, buying frankincense from us, or whether it's the honey or the frankincense or the oils, is going to positively impact, these villages and the communities that harvest it for us. But how do we know if that's true? So a big part of the content going forward through travel, through building the business, through these interviews, is to bring you that transparency, to show you exactly how this business is positively impacting these villages, not just saying it, but showing it to you. So the content is going to evolve. I want to take you guys on this journey. While me and my mom haven't met any of these guys in person yet. So I want to show you guys content of us meeting in person and going on travel and, meeting Jamal's family. Jamal, I'm pretty sure we get our Cartieri and Feriana from you.
Yes, you do.
Right. So how cool would that be for you guys, for us to know his family on a first name basis, the people that put their lives on the line to literally climb up mountains to these trees and harvest these resins for us. These resins here. See this? See this? Somebody put their life on the line for this here, but we burn it by the tons and we enjoy it, and we don't have any emotional connection to where it comes from, the land, the struggles, the people. So I want us as a tribe to have some serious pride. I want, as a business owner, for me and my mom to weep tears because of what this business was able to positively contribute to these people. We want to build an emotional connection with the consumer and where it's coming from, not just the product. You guys already love frankincense, but do you love and appreciate the harvesters? Do you love and appreciate the people who risk their lives and are in caves for 2-3 months at a time, barely getting water, food? Jamal has had to bury his own family members that have died because of harvesting specifically frankincense. So let's be super consciously aware. Let's care. And then when we burn these resins, or we steep them in our teas, or we use them as the medicinal, miracles that they are, we have a certain gratitude and a pride. So this content, I believe, will allow you guys to connect in that way, because I know you guys' hearts and your minds, and you guys will connect, but you're like, connect where? I need to see it. I don't know. I know you guys can connect in the 5D. I want us to connect to this in the 3D, to these people in the 3D. And then in 2-3 years, through all this content, all of this building, we can literally go to Somaliland, to Jamal and his family, and say, look at this well. Look at this daycare center. Look at the climbing equipment that these people are using now that is saving lives every year, every harvest season. This is what I care about, okay? I know I need to be a lot more consumer conscious, but if me and my mother are gonna build a business, we at the very least need to be conscious about the business that we're building and care. And yeah, I feel like I'm gonna cry, I'm emotional.
A lot
But
of
yeah.
employees are emotional too. We have a lot of emotion coming through in the chat. Someone said, I'm crying right now. We must aid each other in ascension. Hearing this definitely puts my life in perspective. Yeah, it resonates with people to describe it this way. And really what we're talking about, Destiny, what we're all talking about here is decolonizing frankincense supply chain.
Bingo.
The frankincense supply chain is being handled as if it was still under colonization. That's changed with this group. That's no more. And really, for me as a scientist, to be up here with you guys is quite significant too. To align myself with a business model, I don't do that lightly. I don't join this panel today, this grouping, lightly, because I'm putting my reputation as a scientist on the line for it. And I'm doing that because I'm 100% sure of what we're doing. I know Stephen and Jamal really well, and I know what they're doing. And so I want to put my support behind that as a figure in frankincense to say, this is the solution. This is part of the solution right here. So, yeah.
Absolutely amazing. And thank you, Anjanette, for bringing us together. It's pretty remarkable how you've paved a way for me and my mom to step into mission with regards to frankincense. And I'll always be wholeheartedly appreciative for you. Thank you.
Right back at you. So can I read a couple questions to you? Or can I?
Yeah, let's do it, guys. Let's do it. Ask any questions. Ask away, guys, to anybody on the panel.
One here is more of a comment, but I think it's a good question for Jamal and Stephen. I always see bags of frankincense for $1.50, but I didn't understand why the price tag didn't reflect the real value. What's happening there? Why are people seeing frankincense for $1.50?
Well, yeah. Well, it's a combination of things. Let me just say, for frankincense in general, number one, there is fake frankincense resin. So a study in China found that something like 50% of frankincense resin isn't frankincense; it's synthetics that are put together. So that's $1.50 is so cheap that it suggests it's fake. Or it's possibly some other kind of resin that's low value. And then the other thing, of course, is just that, if you're seeing cheap stuff, that it's cheap because someone is getting squeezed along the line, right?
Right.
And that's, Jamal can talk all about that.
Jamal, what is that? What is that? What is happening there that people are being squeezed to make the price so low?
Oh, they get squeezed because you need to think about this. They're not living the life we're living. So they haven't got food, they haven't got water, they haven't got all of this stuff. So they need all of this stuff. So these people are offering them food, maybe water, instead of giving them maybe money, they're giving them maybe gallons of water, rice, and then tell them later on, oh, we're charging you this much for this price for the stuff we're giving you. So we want this cheaper price. So they're bullying the people. I feel like these big companies don't care about anyone, and they don't know who they're getting it from. These middlemen are bullying all these farmers and taking so much stuff from them for a little amount of money, and these people can't fight back because they're stuck in the farm and they don't have no one to fight for them. So hopefully that's what we want to do.
Yeah. It's a painful topic because it's what I mean when I say we're trying to decolonize the supply chain, because the model is to just take as much as possible from the community and give them as little as possible. And that is so painful. The reality of
frankincense isn't the only industry where this is happening in Africa as well, right? Okay. We've got gold, we've got all kinds of natural resources, diamonds, all kinds, oil,
you name.
And then I think that
go ahead, Laura.
Sorry. I was just going to jump in on kind of, thinking about corporations. They they are obviously not asking these questions about where are their ingredients sourced and how are they sourced. And, you know, coming from that background, corporations have a massive paradigm. If you think about it, they've been rewarded for low cost sourcing for years. Low cost sourcing meant higher profit, and profit is the lifeblood of a business. So we're like, this is a paradigm shift that has to happen, whereby either the pressure from the corporation is going to be internal, or it's eventually going to be external, because the consumer is going to demand to know where the ingredients, especially precious things like essential oils, are coming from. And those companies that put the pressure on themselves internally to ask those questions and make change will be the ones at the forefront that will survive and will thrive. And that's really how I think this whole paradigm is going to shift. But it's going to be a meeting of this internal and external pressure that that's going to eventually combust. So we're just sort of pioneers. We're, you know, a small company starting to edge this way, but it's going to be time for these bigger companies. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of, you know, do they take that initiative, or do you, the consumers, force it?
Force them, right?
Wonderful. Well, on that, there's a question here. How do we hold companies accountable for this? Laura, I'll let you go at that one.
Well, I think we were sort of touching on it, but I think it's asking questions about where the ingredients in the products are coming from. And if companies cannot answer you, and they don't know themselves, then you can suspect that things like Jamal just explained that are happening at the source are likely happening. Because if they're not aware, it means they're buying it for the cheapest price that they can. So that, and it's poor quality, by the way. What they're buying necessarily is not very good quality. But again, they've been rewarded for this low cost sourcing and low cost production for decades upon decades upon decades. So it doesn't help when we don't ask questions, because this allows companies continuously to continue doing these old habits and thinking in these old ways. So I think especially when it comes to products that contain precious essential oils, like fragrances, like your cosmetic products, that these are questions that you ask of the brands, and you evaluate their ability to answer that question. And you gravitate as a consumer to brands who are fully being transparent about the changes they're trying to make, and the transparency that they're willing to offer you. I mean, that's how change happens, is each one of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd like to jump in there as well real fast and just say I completely agree with you, Laura. And I would also make the comment that for stuff like frankincense, it's pretty frequent that there are not many perfect supply chains, right? It's very often that there are many issues in the supply chain that are being confronted, that a company is trying to deal with. And so one of the best questions to ask is simply, you know, what kind of challenges are you seeing? What are the issues that you're encountering? And what are you doing about it? How are you approaching that? Because I think it's not necessarily that we want to strive, that we're looking for just total perfection, where we've isolated one little patch of forest that, you know, has nothing wrong with it, and, you know, that's the only thing to deal with. You know, these are supply chains that have been exploitative for a very, very long time. And there was a very well documented history of supply chains in frankincense and many other non-timber forest products like it, where there are a lot of issues with equity and sustainability. And so it's not necessarily that we should avoid those difficult situations. We should engage with them and work to improve them, and work to improve the lives of people that are dependent on them. So you know, don't necessarily be surprised if you're not seeing that a company has a perfect supply chain, but they should absolutely be knowledgeable about what's going on. They should be able to talk about what are the challenges they're seeing, what are the issues that they see that need to be addressed, and what is their plan of action to address that. And to me, that is the key marker of a business or an organization that you want to be involved with.
Yeah. So coming through on the chat, Jazz Petty is reminding us that that some of the people who harvest it don't know what the people who are selling it are doing with it. And really, that is true. That's correct, because we have brought bottles of essential oil to chiefs, and he, smell it and look at me very oddly and say, "How did you get my tree in a bottle?" Right? Not knowing that what was happening with the frankincense when it leaves the country. We're also getting a question: do companies legally have to provide the information that we're discussing right now? And the answer in the United States is no. It's not. There's no legal component to that. They have to invest back in communities. There's regulations in Europe. There's more regulations coming around this, but really no. The answer is no.
and those regulations in Europe also, they apply to very large companies, but not to smaller. So they apply to companies that are first stage is over 3,000 employees and the final stage is over 1,000 employees. But if you're under 1,000 employees, you don't necessarily have to do anything with regard to your sourcing. So,
question for you, Jamal, coming through is what's the role of women in the frankincense supply chain in Somaliland? What do women do?
And the women, what they do mostly are the sorting part of it, and the sort the frankincense from the grader, from grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, and then they put them in bags. But the problem with that is it's a lot of dust going into their lungs. So the women don't. I think they need a lot of face masks, gloves, stuff like that. But when it comes to climbing, it's very hard for women, because what you need to know is this Muslim country, they dress differently. So for them to climb up high mountains, it's quite very hard for them to do. So the men do the climbing, the women do the sorting part of it. And that's what they do. Yeah.
So some other question coming through. Do they have to provide, do companies have to provide transparency of the supply chains and the roadblocks that they're seeing and how they plan to address it? And so, Stephen and Laura, we're also starting to bump up against the concept of greenwashing, which we should really be open with the audience about, that there are often times where companies will greenwash, which they'll tell lies about good things that they're doing in their supply chain. And so that's also problematic for consumers when they're trying to really understand transparency in the supply chain, that they might be being fed greenwashing lies. Do either of you want to, Laura and then Stephen?
Well, I'll say one thing, and I think that's exactly why Destiny's vision about the content is so critical, because we're really, as consumers, told certain things, and it's our choice whether we want to trust those brands or not. And I think probably Stephen can speak to how blockchain technology potentially is going to help us in that matter, and kind of create a bit of a equal playing field around companies and their claims when it comes to their supply chain.
Yeah, absolutely. So Anjanette, you're completely right. And there is so much greenwashing in frankincense. It's something that is a major frustration for me, that companies will say that they have all these wonderful practices, with no basis in reality. And so I think there's a couple of things to do. Number one is just one of the best ways to address this is simply, if you as a consumer are educated about the kind of sourcing, about the harvesting systems, some basic information about what the communities experience, and you can start asking questions, you're typically going to be able to tell if the company knows what they're talking about or not. Because it's, often they have these lines that are sort of generalized marketing lines, and they won't be able to address details or any kind of deeper question. And so, just simply by asking questions and seeing if they can respond authoritatively and in depth with detail, that's going to be a good way to know, hey, do they know what they're talking about or not? The point that Laura made about like blockchain is a really cool thing these days is that we're in a situation where we have technologies that help remove the idea that we just have to trust what the supplier says. So the concept with blockchain is that it's a technology where you can add information in a nutshell. You can add information into this blockchain, and then that information cannot be manipulated later on down the road. And that information can be, in our case, so we're setting this up so that we're going to have blockchain transparency in our supply chain in Diaha. And the idea is that we're going to be able to add in pictures of trees, tree health data, transactions with the harvesters, work on community projects, movement of resins. So all kinds of information about this is what's going on the ground. And there are always going to be opportunities to subvert any system, right? Whether it's a certification or blockchain or anything else. But with stuff like blockchain, you won't just have to take, our word for it or anybody else's word for it. You can actually see yourself, oh, what's the condition of these trees? Where is the resin coming from? Were the payments made as we said they were? So it's definitely very exciting to have things like that come up as opportunities to give some very radical transparency in what's going on the ground, and remove that element where it would be very, very difficult to greenwash that system.
Yeah, thanks for that, Stephen. We're getting close to the hour, so I'm going to just do one more question. Veronica's just asked a really good clarifying question. So Jamal, this one will be for you and I. Who in the team maintains the dialogue between the families or areas in Africa and for Smudge a Lot? Is it Jamal or Anjanette, or is there another third party that is connected to the chain?
Because I'm in Europe right now, so I got my business partner that's in Somaliland, lives there, and he's the one who has a contact with my uncles and my family, and he tells them what we need and what we want, and he goes and actually looks at a product if it's right, and he takes a picture, sends it to Stephen, and Stevens gives the go, and then we go from there. But me, hopefully now I'm looking to move back now myself, because my mom, my family, everyone is gonna move back to Somaliland, so I'm looking to move back hopefully in the next couple of months or a year.
That's exciting.
So,
we're coming to the housewarming.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. and completely clarify Veronica's question. My role in particular as the founder of Save Frankincense and with my NGO, the Somaliland Biodiversity Foundation, I will be verifying the blockchain data. So I will be looking at the sustainability of the trees. I'll be reviewing the data of the financial transactions between Smudge a Lot and the Diaha group. And so I am the third party verifier of the sustainability and the ethics of this partnership between the two business groups that you're seeing here. And it's a pleasure and an honor, because this is moving forward now. This is the positive steps. Instead of just being a scientist and publishing or just talking about the solutions, these are the solutions in action. And so this is exactly where I want to be doing this. And I'm so glad to be doing it on your platform. Destiny with your tribe is just really is amazing. And there's one last question. If the families knew what their products are for, what does that matter? Could they do anything about it? And Jamal, I have my opinion on that, which is yes, if they know the value of their product on the world market, they can bargain for themselves better. But I want to make sure you get a chance to answer that question as well. And then that'll unfortunately be our last question.
Yeah, they do want to, if they knew what it actually is for, they will done better bargaining, but still they need food and stuff to actually survive. So if you can't get the right person to buy the right price, you will have to give a discount. So that's where we come in, and that's what we want to do: give them the right price and hopefully help them out as much as we can.
Yeah, and can I just, I know this is supposed to be the last thing, but I just want to say this real fast. This goes back to people being backed into a corner, right? Because if people know that the product is worth more, and they say, look, we need a better price for it, but the supply chains are opaque enough that a company can just go, okay, we're not going to buy from you then. We're just going to go over somewhere else. We're just going to buy from someone else. And the people there don't have any other options. Then of course you're going to get a situation where, again, people are constantly beaten down into accepting low prices and unfair deals. And so part of it is being able is not only knowing what the value is, but then having a route to market with partners that are committed to actually changing the system, and that are not just here to get the lowest possible price and make the biggest profit for themselves, but that actually where positive impacts for everybody along the supply chain is the model. And that's this group, and that's why it's great to work with Smudge a lot, because you guys believe in that just like we do. So we need to see more of that in the market, rather than just a total focus on low prices and not caring about what the impacts are.
Yeah.
And one more thing, people need to just stop thinking about the product and start thinking about the people. Because people is much more important than the product. And that's the problem. People are not thinking about that. Everyone is thinking about the product, and actually about the human that is actually going and struggling through this. Thank you.
So just one thing. Seppi just made a funny comment. Frankincense itself is a colonial word. What is the decolonized version of the word?
Yeah, what do they call frankincense in Somaliland, Jamal?
Pho.
And then there's many different names for all the different variations.
Good question, Sep.
Maybe we can type that in the chat for everybody, or we'll put it up on a post.
For sure, that's funny.
Etan, right, Stephen?
Etan in Ethiopia, yeah.
It's Etan.
Yeah, Luban in Oman and Yemen, Luban.
Would that be a French root word? Would that be a French?
No, that's that is Arabic. Yeah, and then India with Sarada is Salai. So Salai Gugal is the resin. What is it in? I don't know that they have a word in West Africa, because they don't. It's not a traditional harvesting. So yeah.
Right, because Smudge a Lot is carrying many different types of frankincense, right? So you're bringing frankincense from all over the growing region. We're highlighting today Somaliland with Jamal and Stephen, but these two guys are also working with other counterparts in other countries to be able to bring the same approach from anywhere that the frankincense is sourced. So I'm sure you have a lot of people out there listening who have their favorite type of resin. I know what yours is.
For sure. And people love the honey, eh, Stephen? People love the honey, eh?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Well, Destiny, the floor is yours to wrap it up.
All right, guys, I don't know what else to say other than I love and appreciate you guys wholeheartedly for just being here, being open to this content. I know it's very different than what is accustomed, on the channel with the tarot and stuff like that. And I love to read for you guys, but we've been doing this ascension journey for almost 3 years. It'll be 3 years in June. And this is what the ascension journey is about. It's about mission. It's about humanitarianism. It's about your conscious mind and heart connecting to your mission and creating positive impact, no different than all the healing and positive impact you brought to yourself internally through your mission. Now you guys have graduated to a level where you can now bring this positive change you brought within yourself externally to you in the missions that matter most to your conscious mind and heart. Because it might be different. You know, my love of frankincense brought me into this mission about, you know, humanitarianism, consumer consciousness, conscious capitalism, you know, and all this kind of stuff. And we are going to offer more content. You know, I do want to, you know, we'll talk more about the content because it expands more than frankincense, but frankincense brought me here. It's my love of something. So tap into your heart chakras after all the healing you've done to tap into what you love and what you care about and what means something to you. And you'll be in mission like that. All right. So anyways, guys, thank you wholeheartedly. And until the next time we see you, keep letting your inner angels live. Thank you, guys.
Bye.